The United States is the wealthiest country in the world, so it makes sense that they have the most secure currency. But what if I told you that this indictment is going away soon, specifically in the next 5 years? If you know Richard Mills, an investor and owner of the aheadoftheherd.com, he called the US dollar a walking dead currency because the country has been rushing into a US dollar crisis of epic proportions. And it's easy to see why. There are many countries and companies who rely on the US dollar as the most secure currency, giving them a reason to park their savings or money in dollars. But since the greenback increased its interest rates faster than any other country, it causes US exports to be more expensive for foreign purchasers, which then decreases the latter's purchasing power. Also, the rising interest rates are causing erratic behavior to the treasury notes and bond markets available in America. But the rates are not without its pros. In this situation, the interest rates are also triggering an upwards pressure in the dollar because there are tons of foreign investors that are pouring their capital into the country. I mean, if you're an investor, who would not want to put their eggs in a basket that is well perceived in the economy of Europe, for example, which is a country that's currently suffering from an energy crisis? The euro even fell to a 2-decade low of 0.99 against the US dollar. With all of this in mind, we can safely say that because of the US dollar being at its strongest in a generation, it has been a safe haven to many, but not without the highest interest rates, inflation, and other worries upon its growth. Aside from the fact that the interest rates of greenbacks are rising, which then results in a lower purchasing power from foreign consumers, the stronger the dollar is, the larger the impact it has on its surrounding nations. With that said, a lot of countries are defending themselves against the surge of the US dollar, and they are doing this by selling treasuries and dumping the greenback. Among those countries are Russia, China, India, Saudi Arabia, and Iran. And according to New Indiana Express, the world's largest countries with the biggest economies are moving away from payments in the US dollar and increasingly using local currencies for trade. If these countries, especially China, fully dumps the US dollar, the trade surplus for America will turn into a trade deficit. Well, America wouldn't want that, particularly to a country who has export-oriented economy. Why would these countries want to dump dollars if a shortage in greenback can limit their abilities to grow or trade effectively in other countries? The answer is, have you heard of the other countries I mentioned? These countries are well perceived and no other country will want to cut off their ties to them. Like in China, which as of today holds the slowest rise in inflation rate, whereas Russia contains one of the largest economies in the world because of their extensive natural resources. So if these countries dump the dollar, it would fall. According to Richard Mills, the dollar should not fall too much because that would risk the dollar losing its exorbitant privilege, which refers to the benefits of the United States due to its own currency being the international reserve currency. There are tons of market strategists, analysts, and economists who believe that the crisis of the US dollar today is a very large disaster waiting to happen. In fact, the economist and gold bug Peter Schiff said that the Central Bank of America only has two choices, which is a massive financial crisis or a world that runs away from the dollar. Either scenario will cause the greenback to lose its status as the global currency. And if you're thinking that what if the current inflation will bow down to at least 2% before an epic proportion happens, well, that's only possible if the federal funds rate, or FFR, is raised significantly. In short, the US dollar crisis is brought about by rising worldwide inflation, causing countries to look for a safe place to park their money in US dollars. However, the US raised their interest rates the fastest and is viewed as the most secure currency. So while the US dollar is losing value due to inflation in the US, it is increasing in value relative to the rest of the world. This makes US exports more expensive for foreign purchasers, which lowers demand. This creates an unsustainable cycle which will cause countries to rotate away from the dollar as the world's reserve currency. When that happens, we can be faced with a financial crisis of epic proportions. Hey, I want to know your thoughts on the dollar crisis. I see the warning signs, but I'm curious to see what you all think of the probability of an epic crisis like this happening within the next few years. Anyways, if you got any value out of this, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. And don't forget to hit the bell icon to be notified when I release a new video. Anyways, I look forward to seeing you all in the next one. Peace.